no inherent value to it. It only is helpful if it reduces harm. So I think what's the harm should be the key issue.
I didn't mean to say that harm isn't important, but there, on the question of whether you should hold a particular belief, if you hold a particular belief just in the face of the facts, just because you think you're going to cause less harm that way, then I think you're wrong. I think that if you latch onto a belief merely because you want to do less harm, then you're not paying attention to reality. And the best way to cause a lot of harm is not to pay attention to reality.
And I think, in addition to what Jeff said, truth is paramount. I'm not devaluing harm, because I will fully admit that there are occasions where the truth must be suspended in order to prevent harm. Things like we're hiding Jews upstairs and the Nazis come and knock on the door and, they say, are they here? I'm not going to tell the truth. I'm preventing obvious harm there. I think those are simple cases. What I think happens too many times is somebody presumes that they can see the full scope of potential harm of something, and so the harm gets overemphasized. When we talk to people, one of the most common what's the harm subjects is so-and-so has just lost a loved one. They've died, and they are comforted by what I consider to be a delusion that this loved one is in a better place. And people would say there's no reason for us to try to take away this particular delusion, even if we were to know that it wasn't true. I mean, in my case, I have no reason to think that they're in a better place. I do not have evidence that they're not, other than everything I know about who they are is lying there in a box. But so the claim is, what's wrong with letting them keep these harmful delusions? Maybe nothing, but maybe everything. I'm not walking into funerals. I'm not going to the funerals of people that I care about and walking up to the people who are saying, oh, it wasn't Grandpa awesome and he's now in a better place and blah, 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 and he's looking down on us and someday we get to rejoin with him. I'm not walking up to those people and saying, you're a delusional nutbag. What I am saying, though, is that if we understood and dealt with these things in terms of truth, we might find that delusion is actually preventing us from dealing with the situation honestly in a way that is much more beneficial. For example, providing a delusion that kind of assuages our guilt may not be as effective as having a better understanding about what life is and when it might end from the get-go. Because if you you spend your entire life with the understanding that this is the one and only life that you're going to get, that we have no idea what, if anything, happens to us after death, then all of a sudden death takes on a different tenor. Death takes on something where, yes, you can grieve the loss of somebody, but you can do it in a way that perhaps may be more healthy. And that the delusions that people have been latching onto are preventing them from developing healthier relationships and preventing them from dealing with each other in more honest ways for the course of their life. We don't know. It may be the case that lies do result in the better possible world in that type of scenario, and it may be the case that they don't. But I think it is monumentally arrogant and harmful of people to presume that they know and therefore say that this is the only, we need to let people keep their delusions. I'm not convinced we need to. I'm convinced enough that I'm not going to go tramping through somebody's funeral, but I'm not convinced enough that I'm not going to be striving to teach people this outside of the funeral, to help people come to the recognition about what life is, so that maybe when they get to the funeral, they won't bother to, trying to delude themselves. I don't know.
Okay, good speech.
Thanks.
One last question before I go. The way people answer this a lot of times surprises me, but I was curious how you would answer it. If you could choose to be happy or right, but not both, which one would you choose?
Right.
I see, and I kind of reject that.
Now, hang on. Let me explain.
The question I meant.
all you gave me was the ability to choose to be happy or right. You're not telling me that your scenario does not say that if I'm right, then I can't be happy. But I would rather be the guy who's right and then from that position try to achieve happiness, and because I think that's the way to go. If I'm just happy, I could also be not right, and then I'm flailing around.
Yeah, but that violates the premise of my question.
It does? Your premise?
One or the other.
Yeah, which
I
is why
really can't. I absolutely can't be happy if I'm right. Yeah, then I reject the premise as well. I thought you were just giving me two optional wishes, right? If I wish to be right, then once I'm right, then I can work on happy. If I just wish to be happy, then I'm done.
Yeah, I have to reject the premise
accomplished anything.
Because I too would choose to be right over being happy, but I would choose it because being right makes me happy.
Okay, so but then again.
I mean, if you actually said, here are the only options, you can be happy and you're wrong, or you can be correct and you're miserable, I'd probably still go with being correct, because I have this craving to understand reality as accurately as possible. And the fact of the matter is sometimes...
But that craving is like happiness, right? So
which is why I had to reject the premise. The thing is, there's another aspect of that craving. You can't separate the two. I'm saying if we were forced to, I'd still go with the right, because I have an insatiable curiosity about the universe. And even if I found that I wasn't being happy, I mean, if I was actually given a choice. Fortunately, we don't have to accept the premise, and we don't have to make that choice. I can be right and be happy, and I usually am both.
Okay.
How's that?
That's good. All right. Well, thanks for taking my call then.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.
Everybody wants to be right. I think a lot of the motivation of things like faith is it's a way of cutting, straight to the chase. I get the feeling that I'm right without having to do any of the hard work.
Yeah. The harsh reality is that the truth isn't always something that's going to make you happy. Oh, it's one of the questions, that come up in these little games about, would you want to know? So you're dying of cancer, would you want to know? For some people, like me, the immediate answer is, hell yeah.
Right.
I want to know. I want to know for lots of reasons, because I want to know as much about everything as I possibly can, but also because there may be things I can do about it. Well, it may be the case that I'm terminal and have 3 days to live, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And some people might look at that and say, well, gosh, that'd just make me miserable, so I don't want to know. No. It'd make me happy, because instead of, for example, I don't know, sitting around watching TV and answering emails for 3 days, I'd go do something else for those 3 days if I knew they were my last 3.
And then some prick, as you're dying, in your last 5 seconds says, I could have told you 3 days ago, but I thought you'd be happier not knowing.
Oh, that would be so irritating. Oh, you're laying there and you're struggling for breath, and the doctor comes in and says, we knew you were going to die today about 3 or 4 days ago, but we decided it was in your best interest not... who are you to presume what's right for me?
Right.
So yeah, I'd want to know. We're queuing up one other caller. There's only about 6 minutes left in the show or so, and now there's 2 calls on the line. Probably won't get to both of them.
We didn't get any calls about the so-called Ground Zero Mosque. Do we want to say something about that ourselves?
Wow. Sure, you can hit it real quick while they're queuing this one up.
I'll just say I thought that religion was dangerous and stupid on September 10, and I still thought so on September 12. And the only difference was that some planes full of Muslims had given me a really excellent example. And, of course, thousands of people died. The laws haven't changed. And this nonsense that somehow there's something magically different about that spot because thousands of people died there, that means that the laws need to be set aside so that these other people who happen to have the same religion, even if they were in favor of 9/11, that they then can't have their building, is, I think, ridiculous.
Yeah. And then you add in the fact that it's 5 blocks away, which is by and large irrelevant, but...
and that there's already a mosque that's closer, that's been there since before the towers.
Whether or not it's in good taste, I don't care. I'm not convinced that it's not in good taste. Everybody I've heard talk about this, from Sam Harris on down, I think Pat Condell has gone over the top on this. I think that Sam Harris, by saying yes, it's illegal, or yes, it's legal and should be, but it's in really bad taste, so we shouldn't do it. I think they're all wrong. I think the fact of the matter is that we live in a diverse society where freedom of religion is one of the things that we cherish and protect, and that if a particular spot of land would allow a religious organization to build a facility on there of any type, whether it's a mosque or community center or a taco stand that brings in funds for their church, you have to allow any religion to do it. It's all or nothing.
I think it is in bad taste, in the same sense that Denise believing that it's my choice that I'm going to be tortured forever is in bad taste. But you won't hear me saying that Denise's church can't have a building.
Well, the question is, do you think it would be in bad taste to put any religious building there, or just Muslims? Because if you just think it's in bad taste because it's Muslims, then I think
I think all religious buildings are in bad taste for pretty much those same reasons. But they're not illegal, and that's really not an issue.
All right, probably last call of the day. Jim in Louisville, how you doing?
Hello, how you doing today?
Pretty good. We only have a couple minutes. I'm sorry you called in towards the end of the show, so get to it quick.
Well, basically, I heard you chatting about the mosque in New York, and the only point I have to make on that particular subject is, I agree that we do live in a country of religious freedom. That's all well and fine. But I think there's so much persecution towards the Christian faith right now because there's a Christian establishment there that has been held up with red tape, cannot get their building rebuilt after it was destroyed after 9/11, and yet this mosque can move forward. So I just really think that is totally wrong, that they're going to let the Christians be persecuted and allow these mosques to be pushed forward.
Red tape equals persecution, Jim?
It does when you can actually allow a mosque to move forward.
So no. The two different buildings, two different.
Rebuilt after it was there for much longer time. It was there for over 100 years, if I remember correctly.
Jim, two different buildings, two different locations, two different legal situations. If one is encountered red tape and the other is not, it's not persecution. And it's not like, because we're letting the Muslims go ahead and build theirs, therefore we should ignore whatever legal red tape the Christian church has run into. Two different situations, and it's not persecution. That's ridiculous.
Okay, well, let me pass another thing at you on this particular situation.
Okay.
How about the funding for this particular establishment?
What about it?
They're already talking about how they're going to take funding from any source, including overseas, and a lot of these funding sources are going to be terrorist organizations.
So
Should
what?
that be allowed?
If they want to build a McDonald's and take some funds from overseas, are you going to object to that?
If it's from a terrorist organization, yes, sir, I would.
If there are laws in place blocking funds from terrorist organizations entering the United States for any purpose, then those laws are in place, and those laws should be applied.
I agree.
Okay, but no, special new laws shouldn't be put in place just to stop this building.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
Well,
we're agreed on that
they've
one.
already made mention that they're going to allow different organizations to fund this particular building through many different finance channels. And we need to make sure that is not going to be terrorist funds. Because all this is a victory mosque.
What?
This is a victory mosque, very similar to the one that they planted in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. They're trying to put a mosque that's showing that they beat us. That's all this is.
Wait a minute.
So let me ask you this. When a Christian church is built 5 blocks away from an abortion clinic that was bombed by a Christian, is that a victory church?
Not at all.
Then go away.
And since when did they beat us? I mean, they can believe whatever bizarre nonsense that they want. In fact, I think they already do. Since when did they beat us? Are we all Muslims now?
We're out of time.
Okay.
And I don't have time for oversimplifications and people in a majority position who want to cry persecution about an apples and oranges comparison. I already gave a list of the things that are coming up. Please stop by the website, www.atheist-community.org, for more information about things that are coming up. There's the crew. I don't know if their camera's working or not, but they're the ones who actually make this stuff work. So thanks a lot to everybody who called in, and we'll see you all next week. Feel free to drop by Threadgills. We'll be there shortly. Bye-bye.